Hey, can you hear me, dude?
Yeah, man, I hear you fine.
You start seeing yourself in your old man. I heard these guys on these YouTube videos, and I'm gonna change the subject a little bit, but I've been seeing these guys on these YouTube videos talking about those Delphi murders, and God, I went deep with that. It was a diversion, to get me off of where my mind was at.
Right.
Which was just always politics. I was listening to that shit all the time. I was listening to George Washington and patriotism and watching the news all the time. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? so I had to get away from it. And
well, just commenting.
Exactly.
We've mentioned that in our thing, but you're gonna have to tell me, because we've talked about 2 or 3 cases. One of them is the girls down there in the hollow, and there's another one with a guy or something. So which one is the Delphi? Go ahead and re-explain it for anybody that hears this, maybe.
Well, the Delphi is the most fascinating case I've ever come across in my life, because it's about murder, but it's an unsolved murder. Now these girls, they were 13 and 14 years old. They had spent the night together at one of them's house, or grandma's house, and they got up, and their dad lived there as well, and cooked them some pancakes. And then grandma said, "Hey, I'll give you some spending money later to go shopping if you'll help me file." So there's some filing. And then they came up with this idea to where they wanted to go down to this Monon High Bridge, which is this 60-foot tall monstrosity that was built in like 1927 and retired out of service in 1989, so 30-something years ago. And it's just been sitting there, and people go walk across this thing as part of the trail. Some of them don't walk across it. One dude was like, "I'm just going to wade across the creek. I'm not going across that." But,
that's right.
But anyway, so one of the girls had never been there before. The 13-year-old named Abby. She'd never been to the Monon High Bridge, so she went there with Libby that day. They were dropped off around 1:38 p.m. or at least around that time. The person that dropped them off was her older sister, Libby's older sister, who was a 14-year-old. But they got dropped off there by the older sister around 1:38, and then from there they walked down toward the Monon High Bridge. There's 2 roads to get you there, and they took a specific one. I'm not that detailed with it, but maybe 501 or 505 or something. Anyway, about 206 and 207, they uploaded probably the final 2 Snapchat. And what they were, one of them was just the bridge, and one of them was Abby walking across the bridge. And then Libby, I got a text message and got a little bit distracted, but I got Libby, already had her phone out taking pictures of Abby and the bridge and probably herself, and there was like 20-something pictures uploaded. But anyway, they hadn't all been released to the public. But a guy who everybody is calling Bridge Guy, and they're supposing this is the guy that killed these two girls. She turns her phone on video, and small bits of him are available or have been made publicly available. Probably not, or there's probably just a very small amount of him. We probably got all that was available, but it was about a 42-second long video, but some of it may have been in their pocket, could have been running. Who knows what's going on? But they did, the audio they released at a later time has the guy saying, "Guys, down the hill." So they have a sample of his voice. They have a video of him, although it's so grainy you can't really tell anything. I've processed everything I could with it. I broke it down into frames, software, and looked at everyone like a million other people have. Everybody. There's people that's looked at satellite pictures, reconnaissance satellite pictures from that day to look at vehicles, that are in parking lots nearby. That's one of the things that Child Protective Services abandoned building, their old building. This is where the person probably parked at that killed these girls. Well, anyway, so around 2:07, the last picture was uploaded, I believe, and that video occurred at 2:13 p.m. that's it. They probably died very soon after that. He got them down the hill. They were about a quarter or a mile from there on the other side of the bank, dead. Posed in what the cops, or the police, and this here is the FBI who's working the case, the Indiana State Police who's working the case, the Carroll County police officer that are working the case, and probably, I'm guessing, the guys from the actual Delphi are probably working it. I couldn't tell if it was directly in the city or not. It looked like they may have been cut off, but they're involved. So there's a lot of people working this case even today. 5 years, a little bit over 5 years, 5-year anniversary of them being missing. They didn't find them till the 14th. The 13th is whenever they were supposedly killed, and they found them the next morning. Well, next day at lunch. But this was in Delphi, Indiana, and it had snowed on February the 8th, but by February the 13th, which is a Monday, and they were out of school because they had these built-in snow days that they had to be off, and they figured they'd be off that day anyway, but they weren't. Just 50 degrees. The other one, Abby, had spent the night with Libby. They'd done those things we talked about earlier, and they went and got killed on this day off from school, February the 13th, 2017. And, of course, man, you can I just was playing with it. Of course, I have YouTube Premium, and I was there and just do searches for videos pertaining to it. And you can't count. You can't count the number of hours in videos. And you can even go back and look the last hour, and it'd be like an endless list. I mean, it's just specifically since this anniversary recently came by. And the police, he's like the supervisor of the Indiana State Police, the ISP. He gave a press conference recently, and there was this Instagram and Snapchat account that's become very much a topic now. It could be that this is a topic because it means something to the case. It could be that it's tangentially related to the case, and the cops are using it to get people to come out. I don't know. It's a game of cat and mouse going on up there. They had another officer come out and say, this was like the communication. Guys like, the name of the account, Anthony_shots. He was using, actually the guy now is a police officer, but back then he was a male model. And so he's a police officer in Alaska. But he was using that dude's pictures. And he's like young, attractive, muscle, skinny body, he was using that, pictures of fancy cars to attract people, and they caught the guy that opened the account. But they're not revealing where other people were involved, and somebody tangential to him, maybe, or him, not him because he doesn't fit the profile of a bridge guy. Yeah. Somebody close to him may. But man, if you got to looking at this case, there is an unlimited amount of people of interest for this case. There were people down there at that park. They have released 2 sketches. The first one, it was this older-looking guy, and the second one, this young guy. I'm like, well, we may have given wrong information on that. Maybe they'll be the same if they're mixed together. And this is weird shit that you just, you think it's either complete dumbassery or some very high-tech, cat and mouse going on. It's just absolutely crazy, but it's fascinating beyond, because there's so much leaks. They even had an actual person on Facebook going to these groups by the name of Lee, Leigh, Kerr, Lee Kerr. And this person had screenshots from people that worked the crime scene. And there was just all these descriptions of things and theories and stuff this person released. And, but it could have been on purpose. Yeah. It could have been, you never know. And that's like this one guy was talking about this one guy. He was talking about how he was a person of interest, and I sent him a private message, and I was like, when I first saw him, the way he's acting, I can't think of him as a perp. I thought of him as a decoy. I thought he was an undercover cop. You know these undercover cops. I know a lot of people that work in law enforcement, and every one of them has to go off and work undercover 2 counties over. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
So my theory with it, and this is where everybody's working. The cops are saying they're local, but you and I have been talking about all these tents and shit we've been seeing everywhere. These people that they're just traveling across America in tents. That's my theory on it. There's just like the Appalachian Trail, which that other guy that I watched for so long, his name was Mostly Harmless. That was his real name was Vance Rodriguez, but he traveled the trail by the name of Mostly Harmless, or Bellamy, Ben, or something like that, whatever it was. Anyway, he had these trail names. Nobody uses a real fucking name. In that subculture, the people that walk across America, that that go up and down these trails, they're like adventurous, and I know several people that are wealthy that do it. They're adventurous, and they just go off walking. Or they're people that are,
isolationists. They're loners. I don't want to be known. I want to be alone, and so I'm not going to use my own name.
They could be hiding. It could be law enforcement they're hiding from.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say.
It could be a past life,
Who knows? So, I understand, people changing names when they're going across, because I don't want to be found. There's a reason I'm out here ball my lonesome, doing this trail on foot.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good people, but like I said, there's also people that's running from the law through there.
That's right.
And they were there at up until 2013 is when the road was finished, but they had never had a highway through there. There was a brand new interstate put through there. I say interstate, it was like a 4-lane divided by a median, so it was a big highway.
Yeah,
with overpasses and shit like that. So they and that's where you have people live, and it's a wooded area. It's a trail on another trail, which could be a highway or whatever the person's following. Most of them, some of them riding bicycles. Hell, a bicycle, you think about it. If you're in good shape and you've been riding a bicycle for a year, you could travel 200 miles a day easily on a fucking bicycle.
Oh, yeah, especially if they're on reasonably established trails and stuff.
Yeah, or highway or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they're doing it. I mean, you just think that's 12 hours at 20 miles per hour. You travel a long fucking way.
Right. Well, and especially, again, if you're talking some of these cross trails, you're doing more of as a crow flies versus, they're having to search in this massive area. So you can get a lot further, than most people would think you could, So, but now, just to comment on, like exactly what you're talking about, all the details and the number of people that get immersed in these cases. The correlation I've made with it since, we've talked about it, and, and the reason I want you to, A, explain it all so everybody else that hears it knows. B, it proves, dude, you knew some details that, you have immersed yourself in that case, okay? You almost threw highway numbers. It's where Trail 501 and 503 cross at Highway 70.
Yeah.
So, hey, you have immersed yourself in it. But to me, the biggest detail is a Debbie Gataba case that was just never put on the big media. It's been going on behind the scenes. It's just Dog the Bounty Hunter hasn't gotten involved, and they made a media frenzy of it, even though there's people working just like on that Debbie. I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention to the case. I can't know. I don't know her name. But you know the woman I'm talking about, correct?
You're talking about Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito.
Yes, they made that huge media frenzy, and how many all these different agencies and people got involved, and people going and making special trips to Yellowstone and shooting videos and walking the trail of her. I mean, the people immerse themselves in it. It's just like in this case here, that kind of thing was always going on because of like you're talking about, the number of videos you can watch. It's updated hourly. It's still going on. It's just it was never made public like this Gabby that case. And I just think it's cool because it means that, you know, my thing of, well, why is this one such a big deal? Well, but it's a big deal to a lot of people. We just don't ever see about it until that case became a media thing. That's the only reason I was bringing that up. It's just a correlation between them.
You're exactly right. And these cases would never get solved, a lot of them, if it weren't. The one I mentioned just then, Vance Rodriguez, his case would have never been solved if it weren't for social media. If somebody in the group, you know,
brings it up.
Yeah, so,
right.
You know, anyway, they identified him from social media. You know, so just the pictures that were posted on there. And now, you know, and it was a very interesting life. It was kind of like what we're talking about. He wasn't a bad guy. You know, he was a computer programmer. He even though, and he just walked away from everything. He left his wallet sitting there on the dash there with all his ID and stuff. So he didn't have any ID with him, and he went off down in there with when at the end of the trail when they found his dead body, he had over $3,600 in his pocket.
Right. Yeah.
And he died of starvation.
I'll tell you, now this would be a total squirrel conversation, so keep that going and finish what you're going to say. Because I'm going to make a comment about when people do crazy or off-the-wall mess. So please finish first.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. There's another case that I know about. It was this teenage boy. He was 16 years old. There was an old cabin out there in the woods. This got recently solved. You know, this is a guy a little bit younger than us, I think. He was younger than us, I think. Either way, he went off and he found his cabin out in the woods. Instead of breaking out a window or kicking the door in, he climbed through the fucking chimney and got caught. Stuck. And went missing. Nobody could find him. Nobody ever heard him. They found his bones there just a couple years ago.
Right.
And of course, that was a solved missing case. But now that was just because somebody came out there to tear the damn thing down instead of just leaving it there forever. You know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it would have never been found if whoever was like sold it and whatever they were doing with it. You know. So that's. But you know, that's all kinds of shit like that happen. And there's another thing that's going on now. This is called these guys. They're divers, and of course they started out cleaning up creeks and rivers and stuff like that, getting trash out of it. But then they're like, hey, you know, we think that my mama is in this river, so they started going there and getting their sonar equipment and finding cars.
Oh yeah,
and looking for a specific license plate, and they're solving cases. These missing cases, you never thought, wow, that person died by running off in the water and drowning in a car. Wow.
Yeah.
That person died in a chimney by themselves, starving to death, can't move, can't breathe, fall down. It closes off your oxygen.
You are just living these deaths, aren't you? Well, I get what you're saying. I mean, you know,
I'm fascinated, but I'm a psychologist, though, Don. I mean, I go through periods where I study this. So this is not, you know, a lot of these cases I studied through, but as they kind of popped up, there's new twists always coming out on them. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the study of the human mind and the human psyche is interesting. I mean, this just study of humans. You know, I mean, I enjoy learning about it. So I'm with you. You know, the interesting things that come up and trying to put yourself in their position to actually be empathic enough to, you know, like imagining that, even if it's a gruesome thing, you know. So I understand. Yeah, go ahead, please. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, no, you're not interrupting. We're having a conversation. Because like I was thinking the other day, it's like, you know, being a criminal profiler, a detective, would be a fun fucking job. You know, to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as long as you're kind of disconnected and can put up with probably some of the horrors you would actually have to, you know, endure, type thing.
I'd want to select my case, like those guys you see on TV. You know, they go up there and they solve these once in a lifetime kind of cases every week. You know? Yeah.
You want to be Sherlock on CBS or Elementary on CBS. That's what you want to be.
I told you. Hey, man, I got the trainer that showed up. I want to jump off, man. I appreciate the hell you helping me tonight talking with me, okay?
All right, bro. Talk to you later.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Bye.